couldn't see you there. Welcome to my kitchen. We are going to be cooking up an amazing meal today. I know that I promised you all on my blog that I was going to show you how you can make the best Thanksgiving meal ever. I spent so much time making every single type of dish. I just know that food is such a love language. What's a full stomach? A full heart. Yeah, one of my favorite Thanksgiving traditions is to get up super early to make all the food, all the dishes for my family and my friends. And then, you know, after they're all stuffed, just like the turkey, and they all fall asleep, I'm always left to clean everything myself, and no one really asks to help. But you know what? It's fine. We love servanthood, and I'm thankful that I have friends and family that I can just pour into, whether it's with love or with some stuffing.
If you know someone like that, you let them clean up every single time. You know that you do. Well, we've been talking about some things that I think are really important. We're talking about how do you close gaps that exist between us as human beings. And I believe that the most important things that we have on this earth are the relationships with the people who are closest to us. Like more precious than gold, more precious than your bank account, more precious than the car you drive or that phone that you always have in your pocket. Like more precious than anything are those relationships. Like those are things that matter. And so to convince you just a little bit, I'm going to use something that I'm more familiar with, which is the sports world. I know not everybody is, but that's kind of my world a little bit since I was a young kid. I want to show you a couple basketball clips that will demonstrate the power of our relationship. So check out this first clip.
Waits. He has the ball. Here we go. Inbounds pass. Rachel waiting, pitching it to Joyner. Joyner dribbling it up court. He's at the top of the key. Fires a shot at the buzzer. Good! And it counts! Joyner just hit a three to win the game for Tulsa. Holy smokes! At half court, he caught the ball. He turned, he angled to the right, and he made a three-pointer at the buzzer. Elijah Joyner!
That is the ultimate moment for a basketball player. That is the ultimate, although I do not want to be on the bottom of that pile. I know who would want to be on top, and that is J.J. Miller. He'd be out there just climbing on top of everybody else. Now, what you don't see in this clip, as soon as he comes out of the pile, the very first thing that he does is that he runs to his dad, and he gives him the biggest hug he's ever given him, and he just cries like a baby, which will make sense for what you hear him say in this interview after the game.
I honestly never pictured this moment with my father being here for the first time, and I'm just so happy that he was here for this moment. It means so much for me to see him in the crowd. It just means a lot to me knowing that he was here and that I could do this in this special moment. I never pictured this. I never pictured him being in the crowd, you know, cheering me on and things like that this far in my life. But he's here, and I'm just so happy that he's here.
That's good. That's good. That's good.
That's how important relationships are. Some of you in this room, you're waiting for somebody to show up in your life, aren't you? You're waiting for that person to show up in your life. They're probably not going to show up to a basketball game, and you make the winning shot, and then you get tackled by your friends, and then you get to go over and hug your dad, but you're waiting for somebody to show up in your life and be there for you. You've been waiting for months. Some of you have been waiting for years. You're just waiting for that person to show up into your life in the way that you need them. This young guy is crying because his dad came for the very first time to watch him play a basketball game. And what are the odds that he would make the winning shot? How awesome is that? But some of you, you're waiting to close the gap between you and someone that matters to you. That's why we put together this series, this collection of messages, because what we're trying to do is figure out how do we close those gaps? How do we shrink the space between you and your sister? How do we shrink that space between you and your parents, or you and your boss, or you and your girlfriend, or your boyfriend, or your spouse, or your kids? Like, how do we shrink that gap? So what we've done is we're taking some insight from a personality typing system called the Enneagram, and then we're combining that with the wisdom of the Bible to find out how can we build better relationships. That's what we want to do, build better relationships. Anybody want to build better relationships? I know I always want to build better relationships. Well, today we're going to talk about the personality called type 2, and we often refer to those personality type 2s as the helpers. Some of you know helpers, don't you? You know helpers because you work with them, or maybe you live with them, or you possibly go to class or are roommates with them, or some of you are even related to the twos of the world. And then everybody else in the room is like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, what in the world is a two? Which is why I want to put together a little summary of what it's like to be the personality of someone who is a two. So here's a summary. Twos are caring, affectionate, self-sacrificing people who will focus large amounts of energy and resources taking care of all of you. Twos are the kind of people who will rarely, if ever, ask for help, which means they often get themselves in situations where they will help you with the purpose of making you feel indebted to help them in return. Now, having given you that little summary, how many of you in this room believe that you know a two? Give me a mm-hmm. That's a lot of you who know twos. All right, if you're still not sure, then let me summarize one more thing that might convince you that you have a two in your life. If you need someone who will help you without you even asking for their help, and if you need someone who will serve a need without complaining, then the person you would call is a two. So today what I want to do is I want to help you learn how can you build a better relationship with the twos of the world. Are you with me on this? I don't think there's been any other number in this room so far throughout this collection of messages that we've now on week 4 that have been more excited than the twos. Like when I've had people, what message are you preaching this week? When I said the ones, they were like, okay, whatever. The sevens were excited. The fives, they already knew everything. But the twos, they were so excited. They're like, yes, that's right. That's right. I actually had someone email me on Friday because I sent out the email and I told everybody that's on the email list, hey, we're talking about the twos this week. And then some people decided not to come because it wasn't their number. But this person sent me an email, and they're like, hey, Pastor, I took the Enneagram test. Now, let me put the brakes on. The good Enneagram tests aren't free anymore. I just want to give you bad news. Like, you can find out some information with those free tests, but you really need to pay for a good one. So if you want advice on which ones to take, I'll talk to you after the service. If you really want to know, if you really want to know what number you are, the best thing you can do is buy the book, The Road Back to You, read the descriptions at the beginning of each chapter based on every number, and then decide if that sounds like you. If you really want to know, find the closest person to you, have them read those descriptions, and have them tell you which one they think you are, and that's probably who you are. So back to the story. This person sent me this email, and she says, Coy, I saw that you're doing Enneagram number 2 this week, and I took the test, and it says I'm 70% a 2. I don't know if you can be 70% of yourself, but she says I'm 70% of a 2, and then I might be a little bit of this, and I might be a little bit of this other number. And then she said this to me. She says, I am so excited to hear your message about the twos by watching it on YouTube, because I will be serving in the kids ministry on Saturday nights and Sunday morning, so I won't be able to be in the service. And I wrote back to her and said, you are definitely a 2. That is the most 2 statement that you could have written to me of any emails that you could come up with. Like, that means you're definitely a 2. So what I want to do today is help you figure out how do we build a better relationship with them. So let's start with this. The gap that exists between us and twos, the reason why that it exists is because often they believe a lie. It's a lie that says to them, it's not okay to have needs and to ask anybody to serve those needs. It's not okay. Because twos honestly believe that if I'm not helping someone, then nobody else is going to want to love me or accept me or offer me any kind of help in return. Which is why when a 2 gets a tattoo, because they will get tattoos. Twos will get, no judgment from the 1 to the 2, but they will get tattoos. Whenever twos get a tattoo, they will be focused on everybody else that goes with them because they won't go alone, that everybody else who goes with them rather than themselves. So when they're in the tattoo shop and the 1 is sitting in their chair, judgmental toward everybody else who's getting a tattoo, because why would you make a mistake like that? Put something on your body that will be imperfect. The 2 has to walk over and say, don't hold it in. It's okay to express your anger. Failure is okay. Then as the 2 walks away from the 1 and comes over and she sees the 7 sitting over here, and the 7 is just all over the place. 1,000 different ideas for tattoos the 7 could get. I could get this tattoo, and I could get that tattoo, and I get this tattoo, and I could put those together, and they could make this thing. But wait a second. Where will I put my tattoo? I could put it on my eyelid. I could put it on my elbow. I could put it on my ear. All the places that a 7 could put a tattoo. And the reason why they're having such a hard time because they have all these ideas is because they just decided 10 minutes ago they're going to get a tattoo. And so the 2 comes over to the 7 and says, focus. Just focus and stay with me right here in this moment. And the 2 stands up from the 7 and looks around. Where is the 5? Where has the 5 gone? Oh, the 5 is way over there in the corner, closest to the door, so they can sneak out without anybody knowing. And the 5 has this really upset look on their face because nobody told them. They weren't given the plans. They were going to get a tattoo. So the 5 didn't have time to research and find out what tattoo they would want and if this would be the right tattoo parlor for them to get their tattoo. And so the 2 has to go over to the 5 way over in the corner and pat them on the back and say, it's okay. Here's a magazine. Do some research and we'll make it to the end. It's going to be all right. And then the 2 stands up from the 5 and the 6 is getting their tattoo. And they are so terrified. They are nervous, like worried. What if they didn't clean the needle? Like, what if it hurts really bad? And so the 2 has to go over and grab the hand of the 6 and say, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. And everybody's done with their tattoos, and the 2 is left by themselves at the tattoo shop to get the tattoo and walk out all sad and angry on the inside that nobody offered them help. That's a 2. You know, I think about it. If I ever end up in the hospital overnight, I want a 2 to be my nurse. I want a 2 to be my nurse. I don't want a 5 to be my nurse. And the reason why I don't want a 5 to be my nurse is because a 5 will sneak into the room while I'm asleep and disappear like they don't even exist. So if I want to ask them for something, they're not going to give it to me because they're not going to talk to me because they're out there reading a book or watching a documentary or I don't know what they're. They just don't want to come in and have a conversation with me. So if I'm in the hospital, I want a 2 to be my nurse. If I go on a plane for a long trip, I want my flight attendant to be a 2. I don't want my flight attendant to be a 1. And the reason why I don't want my flight attendant to be a 1 is because when a 1 comes and says, hello, sir, would you like some snacks? And I say, yes, I would like some snacks. And they give you the snacks, and that's it. A 1's not coming back because they already gave you what you deserve, which is 1 snack. But if you're on the plane and you have a flight attendant who's a 2, and they brought you your snacks once, and you ring the bell, and they'll immediately come to you, and you say, hey, I would like another snack, and they'll say, whatever you want, I will help you. Then they go get their snacks, and they come back, and they're like, well, here's the whole tray. Take it. You just have that to yourself, and everything will be great. I would also like a 2 to be sitting next to me on a plane on a long trip. Just in case in those moments where it gets rocky, like the, you know what I'm saying? When the plane gets like, and everybody's nervous, and they're gripping their seats, and the men have sweat running down their bald foreheads. Like, I want a 2 sitting next to me in that moment because just in case I need some help. Like, they'll give me the oxygen before they take their own. That's who I want sitting next to me. True story, recently I was on an airplane, and this, I would say she's around a college student. She sat next to me, and the flight was good until we got to the end, and it was doing the and I looked at her and I said, it's going to be okay, because she started doing this. I thought she was just practicing for when she got pregnant and was going to have her baby. I mean, I don't know, but she's like, and I looked at her and I said, it is going to be okay. Like, it's going to be okay. And she wouldn't make eye contact. And as we hit the ground, barely even slowed down enough to stop, she looks at me and she says, can I get by? I'm not going to make it. And so she runs past me to the bathroom, and we're so close, I just hear this poor girl. She's just, blah. And then she comes back to me, and she looks me in the eyes for the very first time and says, see, it was not okay. I was not a very good 2. I should have went and held her hair, I guess. I don't know. If I ever go to the dentist to have my teeth cleaned, I definitely want a 2. Because when you're at a dentist and they're cleaning your teeth, which is the worst experience, isn't it, people? Like, why do they have to scrape your teeth? There's got to be a better way. There has to be some brush that somebody can come up with that doesn't require a metal thing on your teeth. And you know when you have a tooth as a dental hygienist, if you say ouch or anything, they're going to say to you, hey, can I help you? I do not want an 8 to be my dental hygienist, because if your dental hygienist is an 8 and you say, ouch, that hurts, they tell you to shut up, you little wimp. And then they take that thing and they're just, oh, we love and we lead the twos of the world. But here's what I know about twos. Chances are that you've experienced some feelings in your life where you've wondered, who am I apart from what I do for others? You're worried if you don't do things for others, if you don't show up for them, if you're not there for them, if you're not the one who's always offering help, you're worried that you will have no usefulness to them. So what I want to do for those of you who are twos in the room is I want to give you one verse from the Bible, because if I could only give you one, I can give you a lot, but if I could only give you one and tell you, hey, take this and lock it in your brain, because I believe if you have this and you carry this with you everywhere you go, it has the ability to set you free from some struggles that you've had in your life. Then the verse that I would go to is found in the Gospel of John. It would be in John chapter 13. I would scroll down to verse 8. This is Jesus speaking to one of his 12 disciples. And this is what Jesus says to him. If I don't wash your feet, then you can't be a part of what I'm doing. Did you know Jesus said that to someone? Like, if I don't wash your feet, all the guys in the room were like, man, can you imagine just letting my feet stick out? Somebody wash my feet. But some of you have the ugliest, dirtiest toes. There ain't nobody touching your feet, not even Jesus. And Jesus says, if you don't let me wash your feet, Now, I don't know if Peter is a 2, but it seems like based on what Jesus just said to him that there's a good chance that Peter could be a 2. Possibly, I don't know, because it's as if Jesus is speaking to one of the greatest struggles that a 2 have, which is allowing someone to serve them. 2 struggle with allowing anyone to serve them. And what Jesus is saying in this context is, I have to serve you in order for you to participate in the purpose that I have given you in serving the mission of building the kingdom of heaven right here on earth. I have to serve you. You have to let me wash your feet if you want to be a part of what I'm doing. So let me give you some context to this story. Jesus is with his 12 closest followers, and they're sitting in a private room, almost like the dessert room at Burns. They're all by themselves, and they're just sitting there, and they're waiting for this meal to start. It's actually the final meal that they will ever have with Jesus. And they're sitting there, and they're waiting, and the reason why they're waiting is because that servant or that slave needs to come in and wash all of their feet so that they're clean enough to share a meal without worrying about all the uncleanliness rules that exist in the world at the time. Picture this, 13 guys, including Jesus. So let's have 12 guys with their dirty feet hanging out, just waiting for someone to come wash them. Imagine guys doing that today. Like, hey, come over, let's have a Super Bowl party. And they're all just sitting there with their shoes off and their feet in the middle of the room. And they're like, well, let's have some snacks together. No, we can't have any snacks until our friend comes in and washes our feet. And think about the guys today, like you wear socks, hopefully, and shoes, and your feet are clean. But these guys had nothing, man. They're just wearing around sandals or whatever, and their feet are dirty, and they're sitting there waiting for a slave or a servant to come in and wash their feet. Should be no surprise to them. That's the way it always goes. So when Peter is shocked, you have to wonder, what in the world, why is he shocked? And Peter is shocked because the one who goes and grabs the water and the towel and brings it over to wash their feet, the one who goes and grabs it is the one they are following. It's Jesus. And Peter is thinking to himself, there is no way I'm allowing Jesus to come wash my feet. We are his followers. He's not our followers. We serve him. He doesn't serve us. And Peter's thinking, I would much rather be the one who washes Jesus' feet. I'd even wash everybody else's feet rather than Jesus wash my feet. Which leads Peter to say something that I don't think any of you would want to catch yourself saying to Jesus, which is, you will never wash my feet. You will never. You're not going to do it. Now, that's understandable in this 21st century. The guys struggling to let other people wash their feet. You know, my father-in-law was in town this week. He was visiting our family. He doesn't come down often. And after being around him any amount of time, I understand why my wife is a 7, because he's all over the place. And so he wanted to go ride bikes with me to go pick up my kids from school. And let's just say he's older and bigger. And he's like, I don't know if I can ride a bike. So he went and bought an electric bike. So those are not cheap. And he went and bought an electric bike so he could ride with us to go pick up my kids from school. And so he's also wanting to hang out with my kids. And he decides, hey, you know what? One day, Coy, I would like to take them to get their nails done. I mean, that's a good thing to do with your granddaughters, isn't it? I believe. That's a fun thing to do with your granddaughters. And so he takes them to get their nails done, and he comes back to our house. And he comes in, and he's looking for Brooklyn, his daughter, and my wife. And I'm like, she's already at church. It was a Wednesday. She was getting ready for youth. And I'm like, how did it go? And he's like, it was great. And then he asked me this question I never thought my father-in-law would ever ask to me. Have you ever had a pedicure? And I was like, I'm Coy, not Brooklyn. I'm like, what are you asking? He's like, I just had a pedicure, and it was so good. And I said, what happened to my father-in-law? Did you eat him? Because I don't know who this person is who was talking to me. You took my daughters to get their hands and nails done, and you got your feet done? I'm like, Peter, ain't nobody touching my feet except for maybe Brooklyn. Here you go. And she never touches my feet. Peter said, you will never wash my feet. And then Jesus responds to him, hey, listen, if I don't, then you won't be a part of what I'm doing. What Jesus is trying to say to Peter, which I also believe Jesus is trying to say to all of us who are reading this story, is listen, if you can't admit that you have needs that need to be served and then allow someone to serve those needs, then you are taking yourself and removing yourself from the opportunity to participate in this mission and this vision that I'm trying to give to all of you. Like you're out of it, you're gone, because this is who I need you to be, somebody who is willing to let others serve you. In God's word, it says that the Son of God come to serve, not to be served. Now, I'm talking to the twos of the room, and I know they're all like, wow, man, he's beating me up a little bit right now. But let me make this message relevant to the rest of us in this room, because I think this is a breakdown that's happening in the church today right here in our country. I think there's a breakdown in our church today where when we come to church as followers of Jesus, we're not thinking that we're coming to this place to express our needs to God. We walk into this place thinking, this isn't where I express my needs. This is where I come and show that I don't have any needs. We're not showing up in this place and be like, God, I need you so much. I'm struggling with looking at these things on my phone when nobody else is around. God, I'm struggling with this feeling of fear because of always feeling like I'm a failure. God, I'm struggling in this relationship because I have a tendency to be angry and it grows into bitterness, and I need your help, God. We don't come into this place and say, God, I am struggling financially. I really shouldn't probably even be at Southeastern University right now because my bill is going to be something I could never pay. And I need your help, God. I need your. We don't come into church thinking that way, do we? We come into church thinking, I'm good. And very rarely do we come to church and say, God, will you serve me? Will you serve me, Jesus? Will you serve me? I think it's a major breakdown in our church today as followers of Jesus. We think we're coming to serve Jesus. And Jesus is saying, before you serve anybody else, you have to learn that I have come to serve you. Because when you allow me to serve you, then you learn what it means to be a true servant. Somebody who doesn't care about getting to the top, but somebody who knows where we are meant to hang out as followers of Jesus is with those who are at the bottom. And so we come to this place and we're thinking about all about ourselves and all the ways that we have to push ourselves out there, look like we're all good, and God is saying, come and bring your needs, all those who are carrying heavy burdens. And what does Jesus say? I will give you rest. Which is not easy for twos to hear. It's not easy for twos to hear that you have to allow yourself to be served by others and by God and by Jesus if you want to experience the connection and the acceptance that you're looking for. So everybody in this room who's not a two, I want you to look at me now. Like if you're not a two, I want you to hear what I'm saying, because the twos in this room are never going to ask this from you. Trust me, they're not going to ask this from you. So I'm going to ask this on behalf of all the twos in the room. I'm going to ask you to do some things that will build a better relationship with the twos of the world. And if you want to do that, then you will need to help them believe a truth. And the truth that you will need to help them believe is that you have needs, twos, and it's okay to express them. And here's how you can help them believe this: by reminding them that it's safe with you for them to ask for help. So when the twos of the world who are in your life are doing everything possible to serve the needs of everybody else except themselves, do not let them forget that they need to find support, to find the way to meet the needs they have in their own lives. So how do you do this? I want to give you some practical ways, 3 practical ways you can do this. This is important, so write these things down. If you want to help a two, build a better relationship with them by helping them and reminding them that it's safe with you to ask for help, then one thing you can do is never take their help for granted. Never take their help for granted. Twos are the kind of people who probably won't ask for your help in a million years. So don't wait that long to give it to them. If your dad is a two, come on, clean the garage for him sometime. If your mom is a two, after she's got the kids ready for school, and after she's gone to work for the long day, and after she's come home and she's prepared the meal, clean up the kitchen for your mom someday. If your roommate is a two, I'm going to make it simple. Clean the toilet for them someday. They're tired of cleaning the toilet after you all of the time. Like, offer to clean the ugly, nasty toilet for them sometime. If your friends are a two, offer to give them a ride for a change sometime. And if you don't have a car, offer to give them some money to pay for their gas sometime. Just don't take a two's help for granted, please. A second thing you can do is affirm the things they do that help. Like, tell them how valuable they are to your family and to your friend group and to your university and to your church and to your workspace and to your ministry, to your team. Like, tell them how valuable they are and be specific. Let me give you some examples of not being specific. A smiley face emoji is not specific. And neither is this. Like, don't just send them a text. It's like, and don't write them a message that says, thank you. And don't just say, you're great. And don't just say, I like you. You're amazing. They want to know that you notice what they've done to help them. So be specific. The third thing you can do is let them vent their frustrations. When you notice that a two in your life is feeling in a funk, because you can normally tell most of the time they're happy, but when they're feeling in a funk, go to them and say, hey, I'm willing to listen. And then just listen to them. Let them get out everything they need to tell you, as long as you have 3 hours. Just let them say as much as they want to say, and just listen to what they're saying. And when they're done, and only after they're done and you've listened to them, then ask their permission to give them some feedback and some thoughts, or even give them some help. Which that's not easy for most of us. Like, I'll admit it's not easy for me. I work with 3 twos at this church. Like, 3 of them, I meet with them every single Thursday. And if you know my personality, I have an agenda for everything. Like, I know exactly what I want to do. I'll send it to you, and I'll tell you, I have this much time, so let's do our best to fit into that amount of time. Let's get those things done. I want to make sure you're on task. I want to make sure that you're growing. I want to make sure that you know what you're doing. And so when I get into a meeting, that's my expectation is, let's just keep going through what we need to go through. And every single Thursday when I get together with our staff, I have 3 twos that I have to meet with. And I've had to learn in those moments when they're staring at me with those glassy eyes like, that I need to stop and say, are you okay? And then as they start to tell me, I worry and I look. I don't have a watch. I look at my phone. I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I going to get through this? And because I know I have a bunch of meetings that day. Like I have a 2 to start with, and then I go to another 2. And then I know I have to get to Connor, who's going to be late. And then and then I know I eventually have to get to Bruno, and that always takes a long time. And then I get to another 2, so my day is going to be really long. So I'm sitting there thinking, can we just get through this in my head? Like, can we get through this? But what I've learned is the longer I listen, the closer that gap shrinks. And in those moments where those 2s who I work with have come into the room and said, I just feel overwhelmed, after I've listened, they feel like, wow, I can do this. So I know there's some of you in this room and you have relationships with 2 and they're struggling. And so you're listening to me and you're thinking, cool, I don't see how any of this makes sense. It kind of seems like it's counterintuitive that you're asking me to help someone who doesn't want help by helping them. Won't that just push them away? And you can think that way. You can have that thought in your brain that this is not going to work. Or you can listen to the truth in God's word that says that God transforms us by the renewing of our minds. And so in this moment, God wants to renew some of your minds to stop thinking that some of these things that you've done in the past are always going to create the same result with the person that you want to be closer to, because God can change your mind and God can change somebody else's mind, those 2s in your life. And so what I want to do is I want to offer to you a chance, some things that you can do, which I've given to you. But I want to say when you do these things, like your life can change and their life can change and your relationship can be transformed, because what happens is when you no longer take a 2's need to be needed for granted and instead make them feel safe enough to express their needs and have those needs met, then something amazing happens. They will stop trying to evoke a feeling of indebtedness in you through meeting your needs. And they will let go of the pride that keeps them from asking for help. And beyond all the calculated help that 2s give to earn your love, you will see that interacting with them in this way, it cuts the strings that keeps the 2s attached to that feeling of worthlessness, because they believe if they don't help someone, then they are helpless. And you'll find something beautiful. You'll discover that beyond all those things, the 2s of the world are thoughtful, generous, others-oriented people who are able to express their needs and who are willing to let their own feet get washed, which allows you both to build a better, stronger, closer, healthier relationship. Stand with me. There's a good likelihood that the 2s who come to our church are never going to ask you to pray with them. But I know they would love it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the 2s, if you're willing and you're here and you don't want to look weird, will you come forward and let us pray for you, the 2s of the room? Will you come up here in the front and just let us help you by praying with you and for you? Yeah, I know we have at least 3 in the room because I meet them every Thursday. Whoa, look at all the 2s in the room. Yeah. All right, if you're a leader in our church, if you're somebody who likes to pray or pray for other people, will you come up and just kind of stand around them? 2s are affectionate people, which means don't give them a hug. Just put your hand on their back and let them know that you're here to pray for them. We're going to pray for you 2s because we know that there's days in your life where you have done so much to help others that you feel overwhelmed that you can't help yourself and that nobody else is going to help you either. And what we want you to know is that God gives you the help that you need. God gives you the help that you need. And the help that God gives you that you need oftentimes comes in the people who surround you. So we're going to pray for you. And I'm going to pray for everybody else in the room who's not a 2, that you would do what needs to be done in order to build a good relationship and a healthy, better relationship with these 2s and all those that live in the world. So will you just raise your hands toward the 2s kind of as a symbol that we're behind you, that we're for you, that we want to help you, and let's pray together. God, you are the ultimate example of help. You are the ultimate example of help. You left heaven to come to earth to help us, to serve us, to be with us, to promise us that you will never leave us or forsake us, to carry those heavy burdens. We remember that story of when you were in that home, watching 2 of your closest friends do very different things, one of them cleaning and preparing and working and helping, and the other just wanting to be in your presence. And we think of the 2s when we think of that story. And we just wish that sometimes the 2s could relax and let us serve them. So God, be with those 2s here who feel overwhelmed today. They woke up feeling overwhelmed because yesterday was a day full of doing this for their husband and doing this for their friends and doing this for their classmates and doing this for their professor and doing this for their RA and doing this for their mom and doing this for their dad and doing this for their pastor or doing this for their boss or doing this for their colleague or doing this for their neighbor. They've done a lot in the last 24 hours, and today they woke up wondering, who is going to help me? God, remind them that you are their primary help. And that when they call on you and allow you to serve their needs, they will have everything that can surround them and give them the support that they need. So God, allow them to be served. And God, everybody else in the room who is holding their hands up toward the 2s, let us commit together to never take advantage of their help, but to always tell them how much we value it. And then before they ever ask, give them that help in return. God, we love the 2s and everybody else in this room. In your name we pray. Amen. Give it up for the 2s in the room, everybody. Tell them how much you love them. I don't feel like you love them enough. You need to give a little more love to the 2s in the room. There you go, a little bit louder.